Welcome to Success Leaves Clues. Today, I'm going to talk about an individual that didn't get complacent. She didn't just stop. She didn't give up. She found a solution. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a woman that her life wasn't, you might say, all roses. She didn't come from a wealthy family, but she found a problem and she found a way to fix it. And we're going to talk about that right now. And maybe you're a person that's struggling to make money. Maybe that's your need. Maybe that's your problem. And let's just dig right in. Her name is Madam C. Walker. She was born in 1867. Yes, way back in 1867, just after the Civil War. She became an orphan as a child. She worked in the cotton fields. She worked as a laundress, a hair care business that made her one of America's most successful self-made women in her era. But here's the part I really want you to pay attention to. She didn't start with a perfect life. She started with a problem and figured out how to solve it. By the end of this story, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you the exact clue I believe you can take from Madam Walker and apply it to your own life today. Because the problem you're facing may be closer to an opportunity than you realize. She didn't start with money. Her first name was Sarah Beloved, was born in Louisiana in 1867. Her parents had been enslaved and become sharecroppers after the Civil War. Sarah lost both her parents when she was still a child. By the time she was 7 years old, she was an orphan. She worked in a cotton field. Her education was extremely limited. And hear this, life wasn't handing Sarah a blueprint for success. She didn't have that opportunity. Quite the opposite. She was dealing with circumstances that could easily convince her, well, this is just my life, and left it at that. But she didn't stop at that. She had determination. She had the will to go on, to move on. She kept moving. She eventually married, and then she became a widow while still a young woman. She moved to St. Louis, where she worked as a laundress and a cook. She was earning very little money, but she was paying attention, and that's what matters. Don't lose sight of your life. Because sometimes the first step towards change in your life isn't having a great idea. It's simply paying attention to the problems around you. The problem came first. Sarah eventually began experiencing serious hair loss and scalp problems. Now here's where the story becomes especially interesting. She didn't simply say, "There's nothing I can do." She dug a little deeper. She began looking for solutions. She tried different products and remedies. She eventually worked for another successful African American businesswoman as a sales agent. The experience taught Sarah something extremely valuable. And listen to this, please. She learned about products. She learned about selling. She learned about customers, and she learned about marketing. And eventually, she developed her own hair care products. Madam Walker didn't wake up one morning knowing how to build a business. She learned. She was dedicated. She experimented. She watched. She listened. And she improved. And then she acted. A lot of people don't do that. They don't act. A lot of people, especially young kids, want everything handed to them on a silver platter. It's not the way it works in real life. Listen to this. I think this is pretty incredible. The Smithsonian describes her as someone who has transformed her own experience with hair loss into a foundation for a much larger business. And there's our first big clue. Your problem may teach you something that someone else needs. There's a word there I want you to listen to. I'm going to read it again. Your problem may teach you something that someone else needs. If you can fix a need, people are willing to pay for it. She didn't just sell a product. In 1905, Sarah moved to Denver. She married Charles Joseph Walker and began using the name Madam C.J. Walker. She and her husband began marketing her products, but Walker didn't simply put the product on a shelf and hope people would buy it. She went directly to customers. She sold door to door. And I bet you she didn't have her air-conditioned car, if she had a car at all. She probably did everything on foot. She demonstrated her products. She advertised. She eventually used mail order. She developed a recognizable brand around her name. Think about that. She found a problem. She developed a solution. Then she figured out how to get the solution into hands of people who need it. That's business. You find a problem, and then you find a need, and then you find out how to fix that need. And that's exactly what she did. And that's business. That's something we can use today, because having skill isn't enough. Having an idea isn't enough. You have to connect the solution to persons who need it. Then she did something most people don't do. Here's what Madam Walker's story gets really interesting. She realized that she couldn't personally sell everything, every product, to every woman in America. So she built something bigger. When I tell you this, what's this make you think of? She trained other women, and delegation are the first network marketing business, if you would, way back in 1867. Her company developed what became known as the Walker system. Women could become trained sales agents and earn commission selling her products. She trained opportunities. She created distribution networks. She created the repeatable process. And suddenly, Madam Walker wasn't simply selling her hair products. She was building a system. Onion reports that her company eventually trained and employed thousands of women, creating opportunities for African American women at the time when economics opportunity were severely restricted. And that's the clue I want you to remember. Don't just solve a problem once. Build a system that can solve it repeatedly. And that's exactly where her story connects with what we're doing today. I want to pause here for a minute. And if you've never tuned into my channel before, I want you to know that whenever you listen, I offer a free Lighthouse Learning Guide for each episode. If you're following Success Leaves Clues, you know I don't want these stories to simply entertain you. I want you to be able to use them. That's why I've created a free Lighthouse Learning Guide to go along with today's episode. Inside, you'll find Madam C.J. Walker's timeline, little known facts, success habits we're discussing today, particular lessons, reflections, questions, and the challenge you can actually use. The link is in the description, but there's something even more important I want you to think about. Madam Walker lived more than 100 years ago. She didn't have a website, she didn't have email, she didn't have social media, and she didn't have online courses, she didn't have YouTube, she didn't have technology that we have today, but she understood something that's still true. People will pay for a solution to a problem they generally want to solve. And today, we have tools they could never have imagined. What would Madam Walker do today? Now let's have some fun with this. Imagine Madam C.J. Walker was starting today. Instead of selling door to door, she could build a website. Instead of relying on owning a newspaper, she could create YouTube videos. Instead of traveling from city to city, she could teach throughout online training. Instead of having personally train every representative, she could create digital lessons. Instead of building her own network, one person at a time, technology could allow her to reach thousands of people. But here's the important part. The technology isn't the business. Technology is simply the tool. The business still starts with the same question Madam Walker answered. What problem can I solve? You need to write that down and put it someplace and remember it every day. What problem can I solve? The question is incredibly important for you because maybe you don't need another job. Maybe you need a problem worth solving. Now bring it home. Let's make this personal. What problem do you have right now? Maybe it's money. Maybe you're tired of trading your time for a paycheck. Maybe your retirement is getting closer and wondering whether your money will last. Maybe you've spent decades gaining knowledge and experience, but you have no idea how to turn that experience into an additional source of income. Or maybe you've simply tried starting things that never seem to go away. Here's what Madam Walker's story teaches us. Don't start by asking, how can I make money? Start by asking, what problem can I solve? Then ask, who has that problem? Then, what solution could I provide? And finally, how can I build a system so I don't have to start from zero every day? That's a completely different way of looking at business. This is where the blueprint comes in, and exactly why I created Lighthouse Pathways, because I don't believe most people need another motivational speech. They need a path. They need to know what to do. I start with, they need a path. They need to know what to do. I start with, what do I learn? What do I offer? Who do I help? How do I get people to see it? How do I create a system? And how do I keep moving forward without feeling like I'm trying to figure everything out myself? That's what I mean when I talk about a perfect blueprint. I'm not promising you overnight riches. I'm not selling you that success is easy. And I am certainly not saying everyone will get the same results. What I am saying is this: you don't have to start by knowing everything. You can start by learning a proven process and apply it one step at a time. Let me ask you a question. Let me stop right here. If there was a blueprint that you knew that people were making millions from, would you take time to take a look at that? Because that's what I have. I have a blueprint that people are simply making millions, and they are only spending maybe 3 hours or less a day doing it. And you know what? Most of them are enjoying it. And you know what? A lot of them are women. So whoever you are, and it doesn't matter your age, if you're 50, 60, 70 years old, this is something you can do. That's what I wish Madam Walker had available to her. She had to figure out so much for herself. You don't have to. If you want to see what the Lighthouse Pathway Blueprint looks like and whether it might fit with what you want to accomplish, I've put the information at the lighthousepathway.com, and a link is in the description. Madam C.J. Walker's story leaves us with a powerful clue. She didn't wait for the perfect circumstances. She didn't start with unlimited money. She didn't have today's technology. She started with a problem. She learned, she developed a solution. She found people who needed it, and then she built a system around the solution. That's the lesson. Maybe the answer to your future isn't waiting for you somewhere out there. Maybe the hidden inside something you've already experienced, a problem that you've already solved, a skill you already developed, the lesson you've already learned, a struggle you've already survived. So tonight, today, whatever time of day it is, I want you to ask yourself one question. What problem do I know how to solve? And then ask, who needs the solution? Because where there's an idea can become an opportunity, and that's where the opportunity can become a business. That's today's Success Leaves Clues. If the story gives you something to think about, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you're ready to stop simply wishing things could be different and start learning how to build a system around your skills and experience, visit the link below, lighthousepathways.com. Your future doesn't have to look exactly like your past. Sometimes you just need a better blueprint. So, dream, believe, build, and never quit. And please hit that Lighthouse logo at the end of the video and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it.